video focuses on the peer review process. In this video, we are focusing on the peer review process. An interesting way to learn how to become a good editor is to read other people's papers with a critical and analytical eye. When you conduct a peer review of another student's essay, you must find a balance between providing good and useful feedback without being hypercritical. Some students will read through a paper and simply say, "Looks fine." And it may be fine, but wouldn't it be better if it could be great? Your role as a peer reviewer is to help the author to make his or her paper great. This does not mean being hypercritical. Rather, point to potential problems or errors, making suggestions for improvements without rewriting the whole paper for the author. If there is a rubric, use the rubric to guide your review. Doing so will help to make sure that the paper meets all the necessary requirements. At the same time, remember that the best papers will go beyond meeting the minimum requirements. As an author receiving feedback, it's time to get out your thick skin. Remember not to take feedback as personal criticism. Even professors get critiques of their writing before anything gets published. And remember, your review should focus on both the big picture argument and thesis, as well as the paragraphs, sentences, and words. As you go through the peer review and peer editing process, follow these steps. Skim through the paper first to get a general idea of the content. Then go back and reread more carefully. Read the introduction and conclusion, underlining the thesis statement and its corresponding concluding statement. Check the thesis statement and argument against what is said in the conclusion. Do they match without repeating things in the exact same words? Next, read each paragraph carefully and thoughtfully. In each paragraph, highlight or underline the topic sentence, noting the supporting sentences and transition sentences. Try to get a sense of the overall feel of the paper. Does it make sense, feel organized, and persuade you? Then you can check for mechanics, sentence structure, and paragraph structure, and then you look for grammar. Make notes in the margins as you read. At the end, write a summary comment for the author. State what you thought was the best in the paper and where more work is needed. Remember, as a reviewer, you are aiming for constructive feedback that will help the author improve the paper, not make them give up. Now, in the next few slides, I want to review some of the key tips for writing a good paragraph. In your topic sentence, you make a claim, an assertion, or a statement of opinion. It functions to limit the subject to one main idea, which is then developed in the paragraph. Your sentence should be about 20 words long. Now remember, this is just a guideline. It's not carved in stone. The topic sentence should be very specific. In your support sentences, you explain the main idea, providing evidence to support that idea or point. Remember, you're going for quality, not quantity. So you want to have at least 3 or 4 supporting sentences in a paragraph, but sometimes you may have more depending on the complexity of your idea. If you have only one supporting sentence, your paragraph will be choppy. You won't have developed your idea. Also, remember that your evidence must be credible, such as established facts, definitions, valid reasons, appropriate illustrations and anecdotes, and so on. Finally, you need an ending. Most often, your concluding sentences will be a clincher that provides a sense of completion. Sometimes it may be more a summary of the points made or a transition to the next paragraph. Remember Graf and Birkenstein's image of the sentence as having arms reaching backwards and forwards? It's a similar idea here. You want your concluding sentence to connect the supporting sentence, but also to look ahead to the next paragraph. Overall, your paragraph should be about 5 sentences long for a short essay. For longer essays, longer paragraphs are the norm, about 8 sentences in length. As always, you must use your judgment. If you need more sentences because the topic is complex, then that's okay. If you're clear in your own mind about what you are trying to say, clarity in your writing is easier. Your paragraph should capture interest and use the active voice, and you should have unity. All sentences should link to the main idea. As you review the paper, ask yourself, does each support sentence achieve this purpose? Then check each paragraph for coherence. Has the author used signpost transitions? You know, those words like but, for instance, and so on. Has she used embedded transitions? Embedded transitions are keywords, natural relationships, synonyms, pronouns. Do the sentences use parallel structure? Remember that parallelism helps to achieve balance and coherence. Finally, check the paragraphs for completeness. You want details, but not too much and not too few. All your details must appear for a valid reason. Don't waste the reader's time with unnecessary details. Always provide adequate and appropriate information. What is adequate and appropriate will depend on the rhetorical situation, so the audience purpose and so on. So you need to use your good judgment in making these decisions. Finally, remember to write responsibly. This means that you should use any generalizations very carefully. Students often make the mistake of writing overly broad, sweeping generalizations that have not been proven in their essay, and very often are things that would be extremely difficult to prove in any case. These broad generalizations most frequently appear in introductions and conclusions. In a similar vein, use absolute terms very carefully and use them accurately. These are the inflexible words that imply none or all. And here I mean words such as, well, all, as in all Canadians love hockey. Never, as in never has there been a day like it. Or never before were all Canadians united as during World War II. Or always, as in Canadians always grow up playing hockey. And so on. Finally, take the time to check your inferences and other opinions. Have you or the author drawn conclusions from a set of facts, not just opinion? Has the author simply reacted to something without stepping back and analyzing the event or the reaction from an objective point of view? Has the author stated widely held beliefs that are unproven? So in this video, we've considered some tips for becoming a good peer reviewer. Peer review will not only help the author of the paper to become a better writer, but it will also help you as a reviewer to learn to identify problems in your own writing. Finally, we considered some things to look for in paragraphs. Thank you for listening.